Sea. The fertile plains of Andalucía in southern Spain yield a rich harvest of grapes, raisins, wines, figs, olives, and wheat. To separate the grain from the ear, the wheat is spread upon the ground, and a farmer drives a stone boat over it. The happy-go-lucky way in which he gaily describes circles is quite characteristic of the Andalusian temperament. It is more suggestive of a boy trying out a new toy than it is of a downtrodden farmer trying to make every movement count. The winnowing is done with equal nonchalance, the gentle breezes contributing to this primitive method of separating the wheat from the chaff. As I gazed on this peaceful scene of content and agricultural stagnation, my thoughts wandered back some 1,200 years to the time when the Moors came over from Africa, invaded Spain, and conquered it. And it seemed to me that this remarkable race, with its strain of Arab blood, had left indelible traces of its personality in the appearance, character, and customs of the Andalusians of today. Picturesque headgear for man and beast alike. And after a day of toil, the harvester leisurely wends his homeward way. The hill slopes furnish generous pasture for countless goats. The goats furnish milk from which countless cheeses are made, and their skins are used to make countless wine bags, like those used by the ancients for storing and transporting the precious liquid. This is the Spanish cousin of our Navy mascot. And this, a distant relative of our Army mule. He thinks we're all Democrats, so he advances to salute. An important item in the wealth of southern Spain is the great number of oak trees. Every 10 years, these sturdy oak trees are stripped of their bark. The bark is known to us as cork. The first strippings are coarse and are used for floats, life preservers, and for tanning leather. Each succeeding stripping grows finer, and when the grain is fine enough, the bark is used for making cork for bottles. These strippings do not injure the trees, many of which live for 150 years. Although some of the properties of cork were known to the ancient Greeks and Romans, it is only about 200 years ago that it came into use for stopping bottles. It is to cork that we owe the accidental discovery of sparkling champagne. At first, champagne was a still wine with no bubbles in it. The bottles were loosely stoppered with hemp that allowed all the gas to escape. In 1720, a wily old monk, Dom Perignon, was the first to use cork for stopping his champagne bottles. This kept the gas in, but he didn't suspect it until one day the cork blew out with a loud noise. The old monk took a long drink of the sparkling fluid and exclaimed, "I have been drinking stars," and thus champagne as we know it was born. All over Spain, in towns and villages, young women produced exquisite needlework. This pretty senorita, so intent on her work, graciously consented to pose for us, but she kept the cameraman waiting for hours while she had her hair marcelled for the occasion. Evidently an old Spanish custom, which was imported into our own country a long time ago. She proudly shows you an exquisite ivory carving of arches in miniature. Under this very tree, back in 1832, Washington Irving sat and mused as he avowed his famous Tales of the Alhambra. The Alhambra, built more than 650 years ago by the Moorish kings, presents an exterior that is austere and fortress-like. The interior, however, is of surpassing beauty and delicacy. The Torre de la Vela, or watchtower, where the Moorish kings kept their wives. A sheer drop of 85 feet makes escape impossible. Not so dumb, these Moorish kings, eh? When the Moors had been finally driven out, King Charles V of Spain, jealous of the fame of the Alhambra, tried to outshine it in splendor. Within the Alhambra walls, he built a palace in the style of the Renaissance, entirely out of harmony with its surroundings. His extravagant efforts, however, were doomed to failure. Instead of glory, he reaped only ridicule. The architectural monstrosity that he built has been aptly called the Fool's Palace. Now, how different and how beautiful is this perfect example of Moorish art? The famous Court of Lions, with its graceful and intricate arches, supported by slender columns of pure white marble and its richly colored floor tiles of blue and yellow. The basin of the fountain is of alabaster. It is supported by 12 white marble lions that symbolize strength and courage. Gorgeous archways, a veritable lacework in marble, enriched with brilliant colors, leading from one fairy-like court to another. Arabic inscriptions taken from the Koran adorn the walls. Prayer arches vie with each other in their splendor. Moorish variations of geometrical designs delight the eye. Massive doors of bronze and wood protect the inner sanctums. The mysterious court of the Myrtles, dramatic scene of a sultan's vengeance. Unable to find out which one of his 10 viziers had betrayed him, he had them all beheaded in this court. Another Moor who took no chances. Himself unseen, the Sultan gazed through this graceful fretwork when selecting new wives for his harem. In the limpid and perfumed waters of the pool in the center of the court of the Myrtles, the beautiful girls who aspired to the honor of being accepted for the harem exhibited their charms. From this gallery, we enjoy a colorful vista of the Sierra Nevada. As we look out over the town of Granada, we observe in the distance the village of the gypsies. These picturesque nomads, impelled by their inborn love of oriental splendor, had at one time pitched their camp within the Alhambra, from which they were finally driven. Here we see a fine specimen of a Juno-like gypsy, displaying a gorgeous Spanish shawl for you to admire. Another with flowers and leaves in her hair, and they're all ready for their favorite dance to the sound of guitars and castanets. As the moon rays filter through the waving palms, I reluctantly turn my back on beautiful Spain, the land of romance, love, and chivalry.